We have a quorum. Will not be here, and Liz, I did not hear anything from her, so I don't know, maybe she'll come in late or something, I don't know. I should have,
No, don't worry about it.
so I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see. All right, first thing is the minutes from the last meeting, November 29th, 2017.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from November 29th, 2017.
Okay, and I will second that.
A motion made and seconded to accept the minutes. Any corrections, changes, additions? Give everybody a chance to read them, look them over. Everyone all set?
Yep.
Okay. No changes, no additions? All set. Paul?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Yes. The next thing was the 2018 tax rate and valuations. I put in your packet a list of all the communities that have had their tax rates set so far this year. Excuse me. I also put a copy of the tax recap sheet. The 4 pages, not all of the worksheets. I plan on making a request for all of the worksheets and bring that to a meeting for discussion. If you notice, I think it's depending on what copy you got, it's either on page 4 or page 5. I highlighted Templeton with a yellow marker, mainly so I can see it. the tax rate jumped from last year. I think 17 was 1612. I contacted the Board of Assessors office on the tax rate to see, ask about, the big jump. And some of this, and I'm not sure how much of it is, but is due to the feasibility study debt finally going on the tax rate this year. That's that $1,050,000. It had been explained, I think, I think it's in the audit document, but I thought it was gonna be on last year's, but, so some of that 1672 is for that. And that's, we still have the police station, the school, and other things that eventually will have to go on there, but,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I spoke to a friend of mine that lives in Spencer. She grew up in Templeton. She was talking about their tax rate, which is very, very good. And I said to her, there's something you have to think about. They have businesses there. They have restaurants. They have a couple shopping centers. And we're gonna pay $16.72. And when you come down to it, we really have nothing to show for it. And that's very sad. It's my opinion that bad management has got us in a hole, and we have nowhere to go but up, but there's not gonna be any money to buy anything with. We won't have any credit at all, so we got a big problem. I don't know, I feel bad for people. I hope that the new people that moved to town are ready for this. I hope someone had the heart to explain that this was coming down the road, because if no one did, that's really a shame.
Also on page 3 of the recap worksheet,
Yep.
I highlighted the numbers. It's, and it's one of the reason I'm gonna request the worksheets. It's on this one, the recap worksheet, page 3.
All right.
Nope, it should be,
This one,
Oh,
did I miss it?
Yep.
right there.
Maybe I didn't highlight it.
It didn't come through when
Okay.
you made copies, so it's
all right.
Oh,
line 22
my
and
apologies, I
23.
got lazy on this document and
Oh,
didn't
don't
do it
worry about it.
individually like I did on this one. No,
You did them.
but the items 22 and 23, the miscellaneous reoccurring
Mhm.
and the miscellaneous non-reoccurring, for the estimated receipts for 18, they jumped about 300,000.
Each.
I'm not sure, yes, both.
Wow.
I'm gonna request, that's why I wanted to request the worksheets and bring them to a meeting, maybe the next meeting or the meeting after. But to try to get, see how that happens and why and how, the reasons for those and what it would,
So, I don't know what's miscellaneous reoccurring, what's that mean?
let's see, we tried to get an answer on exactly what those items covered last year.
I cannot recall. I remember going in and looking at the other documentation, and it did support that number, but I can't remember what was in it. It might have been some of the cross charges to the other departments for, pension and retirement funds and that type of thing.
Insurance.
Okay, that's a huge.
I think that may be it, but they will be on the worksheets that
Yeah,
created to do this. But I
Right.
remember we did send a question about that, because it came up last year.
Yep.
and I did look at the
Budget
worksheets
stuff.
for 2016, and it did add up to the amount that they were showing.
Okay.
for- for the prior year. I'll have to check my notes, but I do have some information around that for last year's cycle.
Yeah, and we had, Will brought the worksheets,
Yeah.
the whole packet to a meeting, and it did explain it. But, there is that jump, that strike, kind of stands out.
It's like, motor vehicle excise is down from 17.
And that, that's the estimate, it could come in.
Yeah, I know.
Come in higher, but at least they are not,
Overestimating.
they're not coming in as high of a estimate as they did the previous year, which, if they would've stayed with the one that was presented, was on the budget sheet, the actual Excel sheets that we had there, it would've been, they short.
Unless they're doing that so that the increase in the non-reoccurring, it doesn't look so bad at the bottom line.
But, no,
We'll
it's
find out.
always better to estimate you're gonna get less receipts than,
Yeah.
on the low side, conservative. Because if you go small and you get more, that's a good thing. If you think you got 1,500,000 to spend and you only end up with $1 million, bad stuff happens.
So this is the stuff the assessors do then, Luann?
Yes. Well, they file the sheet, but there's a culmination, there's stuff that comes from, there are worksheets
Yep.
that come from the treasurer, the accountant. The town clerk has a, fill in the back page, because, it's, a lot of it has, and you have to keep track of the, town meeting votes.
Yep.
For debt exclusions and, overrides and things like that, so it, but I just thought this was, good for us to have, members to have for their records.
Yep.
And the tax rate and so forth, to keep track of. So when we get into the budget, you look at the levy that they have here, and then you see what they're planning on spending, and you see if the numbers, the
Makes
revenue supports what you wanna spend. Does anybody have anything else on this item? I wanted to have a sheet with the explaining the increase in valuations. It was generally done every 3 years, but with the Municipal Modernization Act, it changed to every 5 years that they do the valuations in the town. But I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe they stayed on the 3-year schedule because they were having a thing, are we gonna extend it out, or are we gonna do a 3 and then go from there? And I believe they decided, DLS, Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, I think they decided to do it, stay with a 3-year cycle, and now the next one would be 5 years. So you won't see valuations redone, it would be 5 years, so if property value goes up, then in 5 years, you'll get a big kick.
Yeah, instead of,
So, but that's just that.
you get slammed big time.
The next item, and it's in your packet, it should be 3. 1, we'll say memorandum, it's dated November 30th from the town administrator concerning the budget. The second is workshop goals that were back in October of 17. I think that's one of those workshop meetings we were invited to attend, but
Couldn't speak.
not participate in. And then the last sheet is a single sheet, and this kind of explains who's gonna work on the budget. They have groups and team leaders and the staff, and what board or committee falls under that team leader.
Yep.
And Cable TV Advisory Committee, the Insurance Advisory Committee, the Scout Hall Reuse Committee, the Advisory Committee, and the Scholarship Committee come under the Office of the Board of the Selectmen. So when they start talking about the budget.
Yep.
There was also, I sent out the email today, I could not remember or check to see if I had forwarded that email that had all these documents electronically, but the budget worksheet, like, it resembles the book that we got last year, was in there
Yeah, I
electronically.
saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna go full electronic this year, or if we're gonna get an actual book.
Oh, I hope not.
I prefer the book, but
Yeah.
because books don't disappear and
Yeah, you can
get changed when you're not
Right.
there.
They did say we would have access to the worksheets. So,
One thing that, that stands out on the memorandum from town administrator to the selectmen and the advisory committee, about 2/3 of the way down, he's saying that all the information to be included in the annual town report needs to be submitted by Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Will has been gathering that information. He was working on that. When I spoke with him today on the phone, he says when he gets feeling better and stuff, we'll get together. He'll get that information so I can bring it to the committee. So we can put together, vote and decide on the information that we're gonna submit as the committee report to the annual town report, which will be printed and handed out at town meeting. Considering what happened with the 2016 report of this committee, and it's talked about further in this, in the agenda. I thought perhaps maybe, and not tonight, but at a later date, not too far off, I would propose to have a discussion that we not only submit our report to, and this is where Julie comes in, for the annual town report, because you took the training to get on the website.
I did.
Uh,
I will try.
If we could get that document on the advisory committee's website.
Yep.
So you go on the town's website, you look up in the advisory committee, and there would be the report of the committee to the town as submitted for the annual town report. And I think we could also discuss printing it out and handing it out at town meeting. Because in here, it says, please understand that we reserve the right to edit for space and presentation. Again, I don't know how you randomly decide what information is gonna be included in a report that's required by law and town bylaw. That may be another philosophical difference we will have with
That's a
the
philosophy.
Board of Selectmen Town Administrator. But that was the thing on this memo that stood out, that so we do have a time frame to meet.
The thing is, there's a lot that goes on between January 22nd and the annual town meeting.
But, well, this would be for what happened in 17.
Okay, in
So,
17, yeah. Yep.
But again, what happened in fiscal 16, we submitted, and again, it's in the packet, and it's coming up.
All right,
It's the next
Yeah.
item.
Okay.
But the committee submitted a report.
I know.
I emailed it to, and the only question, the email I got on it was it had fiscal 11 instead of fiscal year 16. And I said, yeah, that was a good catch, changed, and I think this committee did not get any notice, Will did not get any notice. That's about the time when Will was sick, so I was actually acting chair, and we didn't get any emails or any notice or any questions about, we're gonna shorten your report. It was just done,
without.
And when you got handed the report, it was, instead of, I don't know, about 6 pages, it was like a page and a half or something. Virtually none of the information that was submitted. But again, that's the next agenda item. But I printed this out so you could have it. And again, the highlight as far as right here and now is we have to have our stuff together
Yep.
by the 22nd.
You
And
know, the,
Well, we also have to have our, if you go, turn to page 5, that's the schedule of submitting your budget. So the advisory committee has to submit their budget by January 2nd.
yes.
Okay, so are we gonna have another meeting in December? To meet this timeline, we're gonna have
Well,
to.
I say we should meet on Christmas Eve.
All right.
And
all
have
right
some
with me,
meetings.
Bart's going to a football game.
I won't be there.
Oh, I'll be with Bart.
I said, how convenient, oh my. I'm just gonna have to go
So-
find Santa Claus and go ride with him.
I'd like to make a suggestion that we schedule a meeting for, I don't know, the 20th, does that work? I know it's
Let's
close,
see.
but
All right with me.
just to do budget.
Let's see.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to do that.
Yep, I'll second it.
Let me check,
We can change the date.
I'm sorry,
no, I
what
just
date
wanna
did you
check
say?
the,
I said the 20th, because that's a Wednesday.
December 20th?
I'm just gonna check
Ballpark.
the,
Yeah,
Until,
could be snowing.
yeah,
And that's just for our budget preparation,
Yep.
our
To,
TIC.
to submit our, yeah,
yeah, what we want.
the annual town report is the only history that there exists of what goes on in a town in a year. And if the town report is not accurate, or if important things are left out, then the history of the town is not correct.
Well, it's a good thing y'all wanna have it on the 20th, because I have a tentative meeting scheduled for the 20th.
Oh, you are, you
I'd be
do.
in Poland and stuff, you know.
all right, so should we
So-
do it the 13th? That's next week. Oh, you mean you
Oh,
already scheduled one?
We already have
Oh,
a
okay.
position on the
Okay.
calendar. We
All right,
already have
good.
the
Do that
conference
then.
room done,
Awesome,
so.
oh, that's what you mean, okay.
I was being,
I thought you
I
had
was
another
being-
meeting
no,
somewhere
no,
else.
no. Yeah, me and the bear, we're having a meeting.
All right.
So
Well,
the-
you know, you never
I'm
know.
gonna go meet Belichick.
Uh,
Yeah.
So we have a meeting on the
20th.
20th, which is a regular meeting, but we'll just do, set the budget stuff, and maybe a budget and our report.
Mhm.
I'll put it on there, and hopefully if Will,
Well, it's pretty much, we know what we usually need
Yeah,
to
we just
plan
have to-
for.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
number of transfers is much smaller.
yeah, we just have to get our stuff together and
Yep.
put it in front of, I want to put it in front of everybody, and we can vote to submit that
Yep.
report, but,
That was seconded by,
Me,
okay.
so, I'd be clairvoyant.
You must be.
Um, the, and, excuse me, and our annual town report.
I'll tell you, there were some years that nobody edited those reports, because there was CYA big time all over the
So,
place, and things weren't going good.
So, on that note,
Yep.
a couple things I would ask you to think about and commit for, to have a number or something, is, the committee expense budget.
Yep.
And the reserve.
Yeah, reserve fund.
What do you think we should have for a reserve fund? We might as well get our thoughts on that right now. And don't forget the town bylaw that the chairman gets a stipend.
Oh, yeah, right,
You know my thoughts on that.
right.
All right,
They're pretty,
We said the
I just
expense
thinking.
budget, reserve fund recommendations, and,
Hey, it's something, right?
I'll give you Bear's grocery bill.
no,
It's my
no,
fault, but.
the reserve fund?
Yeah,
No,
the
you weren't
reserve
kidding about
fund
that.
and the
Yeah,
expense
and,
budget.
And we said the annual report.
Yes,
That would be for the 20th, yeah.
yes.
The 20th.
That's probably all that it will be, unless something comes up, but that's, I think that we'll keep that short and sweet. That's close to Christmas, and,
Yep. Okay,
and then we can, maybe we can hold it at AK Crossroads. And we'll
Sounds
a
good to
little
me.
holiday cheer.
I'll be the designated driver.
So, is there anything else anybody sees in the memo?
Want to place any bets that all this comes together when it's supposed to?
If there's anything in there that pops out that maybe need immediate attention, you could just shoot an email and
Yep.
we have.
well, the revenue projection did not follow the format changes that we had requested. I mean, that was still the same as what we had last year, so. So they indicated that they would support our request
Well.
on those modifications, so. I'll follow up with the town administrator, if you want, make sure that the final product is gonna look like what we asked for.
Yeah, and see if they're gonna be people of their word.
Okay?
Anything else? Like I said, if you read through it and you find something, just shoot me an email, and if it's time sensitive or something, we either do it there or our first meeting in January. All right.
So are we gonna vote on that? Because I think there was a motion, right?
did,
Yep.
The motion, yep,
Yeah.
get a vote on it.
That's right, you made, that was by you, right?
Yep.
For
And Bev seconded.
the budget, advisory budget for December 20th, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone have anything to add on that motion?
Nope.
Because somebody's keeping me on track. All right, no further discussion. Paul,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let me make a note to myself. Budget. Reserve and
My nose.
expense. And don't forget, maybe we could bump up the chairman's stipend.
Oh, yeah, well,
I'd also like to reserve the possibility for the next meeting to discuss if we want to do any articles, submit any articles for town meeting. Might have some wording for one or two.
These troublemakers. Gotta go away, these troublemakers.
Gotta love them.
All right, that's it on the budget guidelines.
Yep.
The next item is the committee report. And I put that on the agenda after seeing that date of January 22nd, and Will's situation. But also, just to show why we may want to try to get it out there a couple different ways. If you, the two pages that say the 46th and 47, that was the report, the change or update that was put in the special financial
Yep.
report. I don't know if everybody grabbed one when they were at the
Yep.
special town meeting.
Hmm.
Yep. And the thicker one is the report that we
Well,
submitted, the committee submitted to the Board of Selectmen's office.
Oh, my, isn't that amazing?
And I brought the annual town report for 16. The advisory committee is about a third of a page on page 7 and about a half a page on page 8. And from this thicker document, the first page where it has board members, that is the meat of what was in the fiscal 16 annual town report. That's all that, and the paragraph above it, this first page.
Yep.
That's all that made it in the required report that is printed by the direction of the Board of Selectmen per Templeton bylaw and state law. The rest of this information was left out, and as you can see, it was left out of the special financial report, despite this committee being informed and assured by the town administrator, Board of Selectmen, that this left-off information would be included in the special financial report, and
That's not right. It's not
it
fair.
is not complete.
It's not fair to the people in town. It's not fair to the future generations that are gonna look back and try to figure out what on earth, what happened at this time in our history.
Well, it's,
You know, it's not acceptable because it's not our report.
which is why, under the budget guidelines, I kind of touched on it. I think that we should,
Publish our
we
own.
will submit a report of the committee for inclusion in the annual town report, as the bylaw states and as state law states. We will do that,
Publish our
but
own.
we should try, and this is where the training that, but I don't know if you got full access to do this or not, to whatever we submit to the Board of Selectmen, we take that and put it on the town's website
yeah.
under the advisory committee's page, section. I would also suggest or ask, not at this time, but maybe our next meeting or the meeting after, that we print out our report and put it on a table so people can pick it up at town meeting. That would be an official report of the committee.
That way, nobody can mess with it.
We're supposed to do that, give a report to town meeting.
Yep.
It's generally an article. And if any committees, not many committees stand up to do it, but you can if you're there. We could do it that way. But, because if we're gonna submit a report and it's gonna get chopped to pieces, it's, you know, the people have a right to see what the committee, not only this committee, what any committee or board submits. And it should be printed as submitted, because it's voted on.
Yep.
That's my feelings and thoughts on it, and they're pretty strong feelings, but,
They're the history of what we've done in a year, what people have asked for, what we've said no to, and what we've said yes to. So if they're reading other information, they can come to this and have complete information, not something that's piecemeal.
So Jeff, is that a motion? For 2000, for FY 18 annual report, we will submit our report as usual and post it in the town website. Also, we should print hard copy to distribute at the annual town meeting. Is that a motion, or?
I would. If we can, I'm not sure, Julie and Will took the training to
Yeah.
get on the website. And Will said that you're more up to speed on that than he is.
Okay, it was a while ago, I gotta refresh my memory.
I'd say something, but I might get in trouble. With all the things going on these days and, you know.
Such a lovely
I'm getting old
environment.
too, I forget stuff.
Yeah.
No, but no, Will did say, he said Julie would probably be more up to speed on that. But again, I don't know if we, if we have full access, did the training and
We
once
have
you went to.
access
do-
to our page, so we can upload documents, they'll be archived there. We can take some documents and not make them public, but they're still available.
So we can do that.
Yeah,
You have the knowledge.
I can
Liz
resurrect
can.
that from
You
my
can-
mind. I will try.
All right then.
Okay, the effort
Well-
will be made.
Then, yes, that would be a motion.
Second.
Yep, and I'll second it. Or you want to second it, so go ahead.
I'll second the second.
Then yes, the chairman can make a motion, despite what a lot of people believe and think. You have additional duties, but you still are an individual member of a committee, and you have
Nobody
all the
takes
rights
that
and
away from you.
responsibilities.
Yeah, I think I can just scan this and do it as a PDF and upload it.
Yeah.
I think it'll work.
Yeah, and yeah, if you could put the 16 on there, and then when we submit our 17, that would be, that way, we could also,
Well, then
once it gets on there, we could also get the word out that our report is not only in printed form, it's in electronic form on the town website.
Well, I was gonna say, along those lines, could we not put that on the paper form that we pass out at the town meeting, or would that be too late?
No, we have to submit it by the 22nd to get it in the printed version,
Mhm.
but when we get to town meeting, we can put it on the table and for handouts. It's a report of the committee.
We'll have the budget for 20 copies.
Well, I got the budget for as many copies as we want. We may only need 20 by the number of people
Yeah.
showing up at town meeting, but, which is pretty sad state of affairs, but,
Oh, after the tax rate hits them, maybe they'll show up.
so. But that's where that stands. So, you know, they have a submission date, but then they say, you know, we reserve the right, and I still,
I don't understand, I
don't
don't think they can
believe,
do that either.
you know, but then again, that's another fight for
That's the
another.
Attorney General's office.
Another fight for another day. So we have a motion on the table to do this.
It's been seconded?
Yes.
All right. Let's vote on it.
Anything further?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Paul,
Yes.
Bev,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Yes.
Get a kick in the butt.
It's a good thing Mr. Spring is not here, because he'd get kind of wound up about that.
I don't blame him, he's done a lot of work. And then to have him undermined is not
Yes,
fair.
Oh,
I thought it was on this.
Uh-oh.
I should be, let's see, it should have been 3 things. This,
Yeah.
this table. Did I screw up your?
No, I got all the things, I just didn't think we went over this part of it, that's
Oh.
all. Then-
I did mention that it was in there, but,
Okay.
did you want to just go back and
No,
discuss it?
no, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure we
Goals.
didn't
Yeah.
bypass something.
Nope.
That's all.
We did not.
Thank you.
Oh, it'd make me nervous. I thought I screwed up. Again. Okay, so we're all set on committee report. The next item, I don't really have anything because I went to the selectmen's meeting that followed our November 29th meeting.
Yeah.
And they talked about financial policies. The only thing, they did 2 things with it. The TAs suggested or told him that they were, he was looking for approval. Because I believe on the minutes of the 16th, November 16th meeting, I believe Will had something in there about pointing out that some financial policies that were put forth to the Board of Selectmen by the Advisory Committee, and they were accepted as goals, and some updates of financial policies, and financial policies and things voted on by the Advisory Committee and the Board of Selectmen were counterintuitive, they were conflicting. So, what the town administrator had proposed, any previous financial policy, no matter where it came from, would be superseded by the latest financial policy, whatever that may be, whenever it may happen, that's approved by the Board of Selectmen, by way of including a superiority clause
Oh, my.
at the beginning of the policy. In other words, like we have two conflicting bylaws concerning the preparation, presentation of the town budget. And I believe what what the town administrator was proposing was to put a clause in there that when financial policies, old policies conflict, the latest one would override them. And one reason he gave, which it kind of makes sense, if you go looking through back all the old financial policies and try to pull out all the information, if you happen to miss something, this superiority clause would prevent someone coming in and say, hey, what are you talking about? This line right here from 99 was approved, and you guys are now so, and discussion on it and voting on it was was motioned to move to the workshop of this past Monday, and I was unable to attend. I don't know if anybody made it.
I didn't know there was a workshop this month.
Yeah, it
the
was Selectmen
6th.
workshop, yeah.
Yes,
There
Board of
wasn't-
Selectmen's workshop. They posted it late Thursday.
You have to be on your toes.
Just past Monday?
Yes, the
Right.
6th.
That was the third, second, what was that?
I had intended to go, but something came up and I couldn't attend. So all I know, like I said, but I did go to the November 29th Selectmen's meeting, and they talked about the financial policy, and that was the thing that caught my attention was this inserting a superiority clause that would make the current one override any past policy.
I understand the logic behind that, I mean,
Like I said,
that's fine, it's an
it,
easier way of
it kinda
handling
makes
edits and
sense,
updates
but,
to existing policies, but I was looking for a copy of the new policy. Has that been posted anywhere?
Yeah, it's.
there is one on the website, but I
It's on
don't
the
know.
website, because I did look, okay.
It's under the Board of Selectmen's,
It's-
and then I think it says financial policies or just policies.
Financial Management Policies of October 10, 2017.
Okay. I
That's
thought
when
that
it-
was the one that Will sent, our version of it, no?
Yes.
No,
That's
that's,
theirs, okay,
That's what's posted under the Selectmen's.
okay.
Now, whether they've, have changed it and just haven't posted it yet, which is a possibility.
I'm sorry, that was 10-17?
Yes.
There's a 35-page document that was posted 10/10/17. Financial management policies of town of Templeton.
10-10?
Yeah.
And again, it's possible at the workshop that they did something and they just haven't posted it yet.
Okay.
I will send an email to Holly and ask if that is the most current policy, what they did Monday at the workshop. I'll try to watch it if it's on TV
Yeah,
yet.
there's a few things I was wondering about that they had in their list of things to talk about that, but I didn't find it yet.
This is the policy, I'm looking at it online right now. This is the policy that was referred to back at the special town meeting and at the fall special town meeting, about their policies using free cash. Where 50%, I believe, was supposed to go to, stabilization, and didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to have policies.
Right, and
If
there's
you don't
nothing
follow
in here
'em.
that defines working capital.
Which,
That's okay, though.
I mean, there's no rule of law that says you have to spend all your available free cash.
Right.
And if you don't use it by the end of the fiscal year, you lose access to it. I don't think the Municipal Modernization Act changed it. But before the Municipal Modernization Act, if you had free cash and you didn't use it by the end of a fiscal year,
Uh-huh.
you lost access to it until the
Till it was
next,
recertified.
the next fiscal year.
So the DOR has to certify you free cash every year,
Yeah,
and so there's, what, over 200,000
Yeah.
floating around as working capital, as free cash, that
And if it
hasn't
doesn't.
been put anywhere.
So if they don't touch it or doesn't do anything with it before June 30th of 2018, you can't use it for anything like in July
okay.
until,
I thought we could, it could be used, but it had, subject to a town vote.
yeah, at this
Right.
town meeting coming up, they could do it. But if it doesn't get used at the annual town meeting
Yeah,
and nothing happens with it, it's not designated for anything until,
it's not sitting there in some sort of emergency fund that
yeah,
can be
no, you
accessed.
can't, after June 30th, you would lose access to it. I would have to double check the Municipal Modernization Act to see if they made any changes that
But then it
affects
would be
that, but I don't
smarter
think
to
they
put
did.
some in stabilization, and then at least you could,
I was trying to say. Yeah,
That will probably only happen if it's forced somehow. Again, town meeting would have, enough people at town meeting would have to stand up and, make a motion on the floor to change something or to do that. That's, it seems like that's the only way that's gonna happen these days.
you can do a citizen petition article, too.
Is, to force it, but again, if you have something in writing that says it's your policy and you don't follow it, kinda gives me an impression that you're creating policies just to say that you have policies, but you're not following them,
busy work.
so.
Looks like you're doing something.
So that's all I have on that. Like I said, like, the thing that struck me when I attended the selectmen's meeting on the 29th was the talk about that superiority clause.
I have not read those policies, so I don't know if anybody else has. Does anyone have any heartache with what they've produced?
I said, like you said, it kind of makes sense, so you don't get caught with like a real old policy,
Uh-huh.
but financial policy to me is important enough that you would take the time to look at, all the old stuff and make sure you have your bases covered, but
You can't reinvent the wheel.
the only problem I have is if you have a policy and then you don't follow it.
Right.
That's my problem. With this superiority clause, it really doesn't bother me that bad. But,
So there's no major differences with the policy that used to
I-
exist, or?
You have to sit down and look at it.
if what's posted online is what they've kept,
Yeah,
other than adding this clause to it, then, other than not following it, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, but I can't tell you that that's the one that they talked about at the workshop, and, if they made changes or something, it just hasn't been posted yet, I don't know.
okay.
You can get buried in paperwork with revisions after revisions after revisions. It's just,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Relating to this, and it's more of a general comment than specific to the Templeton financial policies here, but with the superiority clause, it also, doing a little reading on a couple of things going on in town and so forth, it seems to be being used on more than, let's say, this document. Just a personal opinion, I think it's let's say, a potential problem. Because if you do the superiority clause on every policy and everything you create, then you put it on the user to go back through and verify what's not in this present policy, to go back and check all the old ones, rather than on management being responsible for saying, this is the most up-to-date, complete policy. This is superior to everything else except what didn't change. You know, and that can create a big problem down the road.
And that's what I was kind of coming to. I mean, if that's our responsibility, is for, the finances of the town, then do we have a responsibility to do that comparison of, old to the new policy, and see if anything's been omitted, or if there's,
What from the old policy still exists? What's being carried forward and what's being,
Yeah.
overridden?
Again, we would have to take the time, either individually or as a committee, to gather up all that old stuff and go through it and read it. I mean, that's the only way you would do that. But it does lead, if it didn't change and it stayed the same, again, it puts the burden on the reader, the user, rather than management. And if you're not following a policy, then you're just creating policies just to, in my opinion, just to say that you have a policy. Oh yeah, we got a policy for that. We'll use it when, against you, when we feel like it, but us, no, we ain't following it. But it's just, and again, it becomes, is that a battle that you wanna go, and is that the time you wanna take away from other things? I mean, it is just so much that, we could meet twice a week to try to keep up on every little thing.
Every board of selectmen thinks that their ideas are better than any other board of selectmen's ideas. And that doesn't necessarily, it's not really always true, but like you said, you'd almost need a full-time job.
Well, the current financial policy is what's been posted on our website, correct? Isn't that what's
You
been
mean
posted
the
there?
advisory committee?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we have the most up-to-date advisory committee financial policy up there.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
I'm just looking at the selectmen's the town of Templeton's financial policy, and it's 50% is reserved for working capital of free cash. Well, if you're gonna take 50% of your free cash and put it into something called working capital that you can't access and will disappear on June 30th, there's no mention of what happens at the end of the year if there's 45% left of that money has not been expended. It needs to go somewhere.
Now, not being available after June 30th, is that per policy, or is that per?
Well, that's what Jeff is gonna look into with the Municipal Modernization Act.
To see if that
I
is
see.
changed, because, a lot of things did change in that. And I've read through actually about half of it. Don't be laughing at me like that.
Anybody else reads dirty
I
books?
would've- I
You
would've-
read your financial policies.
I would have read all of it by now, but I got a little guy that kind of high maintenance these days.
Well, yeah, my other point about working capital, we don't have a line item called working capital, to my knowledge.
Yeah, so where is it?
So where where is it, how is it tracked, how is it accounted for?
And
Yeah.
who, if they have it, does it have to go to town meeting to be spent?
Well, it does,
Yes.
it's free cash,
Okay.
so it
Free
does.
cash. But where is it on the
Who
budget?
tracks it, right, how
Yeah.
is it tracked?
It's one of those funny things.
That's not in the policy.
So was working capital something that was covered in the previous policy?
There was no such thing
No
as
such
working
thing,
capital.
okay.
No.
Well,
This is a new line item,
yeah,
magic
and it
line.
may be the result of the new financial,
I'm-
rules by the
Yeah,
state,
it's,
right?
and I think that working capital is like a little confusing, because they have undesignated money sitting there. They know how much it is. But right now, it's not designated to go anywhere.
Mhm.
So that's like, wow, if we're short on 18, budget on any place, that's a place where we could get money to cover it. If they wanna propose buying something, and hopefully it's gone to, capital improvement already, they could put it on as a warrant article and say, this is the funding source for it.
Right.
Our leftover free cash.
And we had talked about this before, that was our understanding of it, that it wasn't something that they could just use indiscriminately, it still had to be voted on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
By the town. Is there a difference, though? Otherwise, the other funding source is the reserve, or not the reserve, but yeah, the emergency reserve, right?
Right.
Does that require a 2/3 vote to do on the emergency reserve, or is it still just a majority vote?
I believe, there are some money articles that need a
It depends on the
two-thirds,
article.
and how it's worded, and,
So it's
'cause there's
based
some
on
at
the article,
2/3,
not
some are
the source
more,
of the
like you see
funds.
some, every
Right.
once in a while, there's like
Okay.
a 9/10 article, some is just a
Yeah, unpaid bills
majority.
and 9/10
Yeah.
from prior year,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, but the thing with,
Like to put money
working
into
capital.
stabilization is 2/3 in and
Mhm.
2/3 out. It depends on, what they're gonna do with it, where they wanna put it, how they wanna use it.
if they say they're going to use free cash not to support the operating budget, which is what they said, and then they continue to bring forth articles where they use free cash to support the operating budget, to backfill or whatever you're gonna call it, then you're not following your policy. And to call it working capital instead of free cash would be confusing to people, so they
Mhm.
wouldn't realize that working capital is free cash. It needs a town meeting vote, and you're only supposed to, according to your policy, only spend it on certain things.
I agree, it is confusing, because I thought it was just, changing what it would take to, vote
Yeah.
use of it.
No, it's just,
I mean, I'll volunteer to go through the old policy if I can get a copy of the current policy and compare it to, once we get confirmation that that's the final version that they have on their website.
I was gonna send an email to Holly or the
Okay.
TA, probably Holly, because I don't think the TA is in on Thursdays. I may be wrong, but I was gonna send an email and ask if that posted policy is the most current one, and what happened at the workshop? Did they change or add anything and it just hasn't been posted, or is that the most current one?
Okay,
If I get an answer to that, I'll email the committee.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
and I'll go through both of them and compare them, and if I see any major discrepancies, differences, omissions, any of that, I'll bring it here to be discussed.
Because if they're just rewriting the same thing that's been written 100 times, it's absolutely nuts, it's a waste of time and energy. But if it's, it isn't like they sat there and compared them to say, oh, this isn't really good, we could make it better over here.
Right, they were under the gun to get these policies in place in order to try to get a bond rating, which still hasn't happened. Yeah, Here we
So-
are.
I don't understand why, I don't think people understand that we don't have a bond rating. I don't understand how they think they can limp along doing short-term borrowing, and I don't have no clue what the heck it's gonna cost us. And now that, I haven't seen anything in the newspaper about the police station coming in $1 million more than it was supposed to, so when are they gonna lay this on
That's a
everybody?
bid proposal, and, you know, you can, it's like the same thing when they were doing 252 Ballinville Road, when the bids came in high. They just, you know, they didn't even go to town meeting to ask for it, they just said, you know what, we ain't gonna do this. So, the police station, if they wanna, you know, go with that $2 million, they're gonna have to come back to town meeting to ask for authority to, you know, spend another
Because, I
million.
mean, we only said, if people
But-
voted it for a reason,
But
and
those are, you know, that's just,
it's a whole other horror show.
you know, you planned on spending $1 million, and oops.
Just gotta get rid of the,
So now, you know,
Marvel.
they could, there's different options they can, you know, you can go with. You could rebid it.
well, the guy,
I don't think
the
they're gonna,
architect almost fell on his face this morning, when he didn't know that they came in so high.
They,
He was astonished, should've seen him.
you know, they can go out again, but,
Well,
and
I
and
think,
even doing that, you have to be careful, especially municipal, because
Well,
you,
right, because you have a
yeah,
valid bid right now.
if you go out and bid, and then you go rebid, and it's like you're fishing,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful with
Right,
that stuff.
and
It's
there's
like,
expenses involved in bidding.
it's
so-
like not accepting the lowest bid. You don't have to, but when you state reasons why you didn't, you have to be careful.
but if people voted for a 2-year debt exclusion, and they can't get a 2-year loan, I don't understand how they think they could go out and change the rules in the middle of the river.
Well, that's because the wording of the article itself.
Yeah, I know, we have to watch out for
Okay.
that.
And that's why,
Yeah,
you know.
That's,
that's what we have to watch out
So-
for. Wording of the article.
and that will, kinda comes under the next agenda item. Does anybody else have anything on the financial policies? I will take that one off. Improving communication. I saw a comment or something, an email somewhere, something, about this. And I believe it was in discussion about financial policies and stuff. And I thought of several things. One is our report to the town, through the annual town report. Another thing that I consider, everybody's opinion may differ, but I consider that the advisory committee, not the current members, this is about the entity known as the Advisory Committee of Templeton. I believe sort of has a black eye with the multiple open meeting law complaints filed and all the newspaper coverage of that. And in the end, those complaints
Didn't
were
hold
not
water.
filed to the Attorney General's office. Our response to the Board of Selectmen was not appealed. I know myself, I don't know, I didn't see Rob, but I know myself and Julie Farrell got letters from the Attorney General stating that at least one complaint back in July, the period for appeal to our response to the complaint had passed, no appeal was filed, so the Attorney General's office now considers the matter closed.
That's just peachy.
So, with regards to communication, I believe that several things need attention. One is getting our report out as we submit it, not a watered-down, cut-down, edited version. What the actual responsibilities requirements of an advisory committee or finance committee is, especially with regards to it mandated by law, what the town bylaw says this committee is supposed to do, charged, even touching on these open meeting law complaints, the fact that our responses were not appealed, nothing was filed. And I think part of that is, would help not only get people get confidence in the advisory committee and actually listen or even read and entertain debate on what we put out and as far as questions we ask, points we raise at town meeting. And I think we could do this in a variety of ways. One is actually putting our report on our webpage, the town's webpage under the advisory board committee tab, handouts at town meeting. And I don't believe I'm gonna suggest this or even bring this up, but have a discussion, and it doesn't have to happen tonight, but the town administrator, Carter Terenzini right now, and before him, Bob Markle did it, contact the advisory, the cable TV advisory committee, mainly Steve Castle, and sort of do a little presentation,
What we are and who we are, what we do.
what we do and, why we're created, when the
In fact, we
law
don't
that
handle
states
money,
it.
we just, our job
Our,
is-
the town bylaws
Yep.
that states this, this, and this.
Mhm.
The conflict bylaw that we have right now with regards to the budget presentation, and to me personally, it's not a real big deal about who's gonna create the budget and who's gonna present it, but it ought to be decided on, it ought to be settled,
Yep.
because there still is a question, and I gotta dig it out, but this committee asked the question, submitted it to town administrator, it was forwarded to town council, and town council answered it. And Gordon Moore was the chairman, and it was the response and stuff, the suggestions by town council of how this conflict could be fixed. There was about 3 different suggestions. One was, amend the bylaw to, instead of having a section 4 saying this, create a section 4A. The advisory committee and board of selectmen could get together and just, hey, sit here and bang it out. Come to an agreement, like, okay, you do it, you create the budget, we'll present it, or you create it, present it, and, we'll do it this way. Or bring it to town meeting and have a, discussion on town meeting floor. That has never been acted on.
no, it's gotta be though.
I believe it, and the questions have been sent to the board of selectmen through the selectman's office. And we've never had, that meeting has never happened, there's discussion, it's been brushed off, whatever. But I just think that this committee, for several reasons, and probably a few more than what I just brought up, and not only to the public, but to the Board of Selectmen, the other boards in town, departments, why it's important that,
We're
we
independent.
meet you, department heads, and see your budget as submitted, your request. I don't think we should get something that's gone through 4 sets of hands and might have been changed or pared down. I'm not suggesting I don't trust, an entity. I just think the way that our duties, as we are charged by the current town bylaws, we should
Do our job.
do that.
In the 70s, we met with all of the departments. Roger Houghton came in with his budget on a matchbook cover.
But
But he did, and we met with them, and that's how it went then.
Right.
But on the most important front, and this is my opinion, and I think we have a little, I won't say fence mending, but appearance or people's thoughts and perception of this committee as a whole and of current members, because I think some of it is the current members,
Yep.
you know, opinions of members, myself probably out there front, but it's more important from a standpoint of the status of the committee and what people think of the advisory committee, because next year, the year after, I mean, we're not all gonna be here forever. Some of us may be here a year, some of us may be here 2 years, some of us may be here, you know, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. But it can change. But it's about the committee and its responsibilities to the town. And I see the selectmen and the town administrator going down this path, doing a PR. It's a public relations thing,
Yeah.
effort. And I think we should at least consider doing this.
Yeah, I think it would be wonderful.
Um,
We didn't get any, we had no say when they threw us over the dam. We didn't even have a rubber raft.
I don't know who wants to volunteer or who would be chosen or whatever to do the presentation on cable TV or anything. But again, this was just something I chose to throw out here for people for the committee to consider, think about. And we have time.
Yep.
It's just something I think, you know, we gotta, you know, put thought into it, have a sound approach, an outline of, you know, things we would like to do and how we would do them. I'm not sure about the scheduling, how far out you have to do to, get on cable, you know, on the cable TV. Again, that would be something, I'd contact Steve Castle about,
It's good.
and see, you know, what you do and put together something, because you don't wanna just sit down and go, well, you know, you know, you wanna have
Yeah.
stuff in front of you, because you wanna put out good information. Doesn't have to be long, I don't think, but I just think, myself, that that's something that this committee should at least consider. I think it would go a long way. I think it's important, and people might actually, you know, stop and think and see us for more, and maybe realize that, you know, what we really do. And maybe we should go to town meeting, and maybe we should go to pre-town meeting, and maybe we ought to listen to what these people have to say.
Yep.
I don't know what everybody else's thoughts on it. I'll just start. Bob?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as improving communication, I'm all for that. I mean, I think we need it, you know, from the standpoint of the advisory committee to the rest of the town, and I think we need it between all committees in town. And a prime example of a problem that I just, you know, ran into or was dealing with today was relating to communication between departments and within the town, related to the ban for the school. You know, the information from the town administrator says we were borrowing $10 million, $5 million to prepay the old ban, $2.3 million for the sewer system, $1 million for the police station, and $1.7 million for available cash for the school. We actually took out $7.6 million in bans. So, and nothing is being said about, did we pay the $5 million back, or did we roll it over? I mean, that's just nowhere to be heard.
That's what I was attempting to say, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, there's a big communication problem there that, I mean, I had people ask me today, you know, what's going on? And you know,
It's not
I'm
fair to
kind of
keep
shrugging
people
my
in the
shoulders
dark.
halfway through, and I've been, you know, attending the meetings, watching the meetings, trying to stay involved, reading the paperwork on the web, and that's available through the town administrator, and I had no answer. You know, the person I was speaking to wasn't even aware that we only took out $7.6 million in bans. So, yeah, we have communication issues. On the point that Jeff was just saying with the town, and, you know, kind of bringing the advisory committee forward to let people know what we do, that we just don't bitch. Because that's what I think a lot of people think we do, is just, you know, try and create problems. Not that we find problems that we have, or that we try to fix things before they create problems for the town. But the communication that we have at present is lacking. And I fully support what Jeff just said. And I think overall, we probably, in some form or fashion, we need either a work group that's more than just like the advisory committee and the board of selectmen, you know, something for all the committees. And just one other point along the communication issue, that I just ran into the other day, is, you know, communications on how these individual committees should run. Because it seems to me, by looking at them, that they're just run by whoever is running the unit. You know, there's no format for how a committee is run, how a meeting is run. And I say this just because I ran into it as being thrown into manager, you know, running the capital planning meeting. You know, I'm new to capital planning. It was like my 4th meeting. You know, and here I am, now you're running it. It would really be nice to have something to tell me how to do that. A format, other than just the way that the present chairman runs the meeting. Because, you know, I don't know if I'm doing things right or just following somebody else who's not doing things right. But I do, all across the board, we have communications problems. And I think the biggest one the advisory committee has is the sense that we just point out problems. And I think whatever we can do to get beyond that would be advisable and greatly appreciated by me anyway. Because I like to be able to go somewhere and say, okay, this is how I do this, or this is what I need to do, or this is what I need to look at. I don't like all the questions, you know, not knowing what I'm doing, like all the time. You know, it's always a question, because there's never the answers aren't there. So, I rambled.
No, that's,
Yeah.
I think you do
Julie.
good.
I think communication has always been an issue on, not just for advisory, for selectmen, for everyone, every committee in town. There aren't a lot of people who really pay attention anymore, even though these are their tax dollars. I don't know if people are just that busy or overwhelmed. I think we have to do something and to change the perception and the image of what we do. I know I deal with information all day, every day, and evaluating that information. So for me, it's about information and access to that information. And, you know, so I have pretty tough standards when it comes to not being able to have the information that we need to make the decisions that we have to make. So, yeah, I'm always gonna get knocked for being a bitch. I've embraced it, I guess. But the underneath, it's about the money, and it's about accounting for that money. Because without the money, you can't provide the services. So you need to have that accountability and that trust to be able to provide the services that people need and have come to expect. So I think this town has come, just getting the audits done was a huge step. But if you're not gonna follow the recommendations that were in the management letter, you know, and this is where I'll get knocked, you're just a bitch. Okay, fine, yeah, I am, but, I mean, you spent $500,000 on this report. I think maybe we should follow the recommendations. That's my take on it. You know, I don't know how to turn that perception around. I don't think you can, you know, because where I'm coming from, it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, I can't compromise on that. I think we need to have high standards so that we don't slide back to where we were without having audits done. You know, one of my major concerns is, you know, I'm looking at agendas. I don't have as much time as I used to attend selectmen meetings. But I look at agendas and they'll have an agenda item to do requests for proposals for town council. When I think your major issue is doing a request for proposal for a new audit company, because the old audit company isn't gonna do FY17. Well, yeah, okay? And that's, you know, here we are in December, and that's not even on the radar. You know, so if, as advisory, your job is finances and holding the town accountable and, you know, holding the people responsible for that budget to that budget. Well, that's my take on it.
Nothing bothers me more than people that hide things, that aren't honest, and the people in this town deserve honesty. Last year we were told this year's budget is not sustainable for next year. We're borrowing money that I don't know how we're gonna pay back. It's gonna take forever, and we're not gonna have any ability to borrow. But I see the Board of Selectmen sitting there with the Economic Development Committee, which I'm not real sure where that one came from or who's on it. It meets at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they're talking about the town getting a grant to help private landowners market their land, but the town has to pay these grants back. And I'm going like, with what money? I mean, they are way ahead of themselves. We have so much to deal with right now. I don't think they have a concept of how fragile our economic system is, and doing this borrowing money, doing these bans, when we have no idea what it's gonna cost us in the end. It just bothers me. I could have quit this board when the Gardner News came out, and I didn't, because Jeffrey, Julie, all of us try to do a job, and if we were forced out, no one would ever be able to do this job again. We advise, we take the information that we have, we try to say, this is a good thing for the town to do, or this is a bad thing for the town to do. We didn't do anything wrong, but nobody ever told the public that. And I think it would be good for some of our group to sit down and explain to people what the advisory board is, what it does, how it is supposed to be independent, and it's not supposed to hold hands with the other departments in town and agree on everything, because that's not the way it's supposed to be. We are supposed to be independent, and hopefully we can come to an agreement. And I want people to care enough to come back to town meeting. I had a girl tell me yesterday that this town is so crooked that they don't bother come. That's awful. And we have new people in town, and the guy that came here one day and was talking about the school, he didn't even know we didn't have a bond rating. So somehow people have to have information that they can go to, But first they have to care, and I don't know how you do that. Can I say?
Well, yeah,
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, we've got to do a lot of improving around the communication. And, you know, for one thing, we did discuss the differences in terms of the advisory committee's role in the budget planning process. We went and made recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, and they approved most of everything we requested.
Yeah.
So, you know, I look at that as progress.
Yeah.
Let's just follow up on that, first of all. We said we would get a column, you know, so that we could put what we recommend as the, you know, the expenditures for departments, you know, for each one of those, much like what the town administrator column is doing. We would have our own version there. We asked for some modifications to the revenue projections. We went in with specific requests, and they've approved most of those. Now we gotta make sure that, you
They
know,
do it.
they come to fruition here, but as far, the sense that I get of when talking with people, and I work in a retail store, so I, you know, talk to a lot of the local residents, and they're just sick of the infighting. And they're sick of the lack of clear information that's
yeah.
available out there. So if we have a financial responsibility to the town, let's pick one of those subjects that are, you know, the most confusing and have the greatest impact or most direct impact to our tax rates, you know, that are gonna get people interested and maybe attending to the town meetings again. Let's talk about the bans. Let's understand it ourselves. I don't understand it.
I'm afraid of
Right.
it because I don't understand it, and I don't know what we're
Right.
getting into.
So in terms of our credibility,
Yeah,
you know, let's us understand one of those big issues first of all. Let's get the town administrator or whoever that we need to meet with us, make sure we understand
I
it
would love
in a
to
way
meet
that
this
we can communicate
financial
it.
advisor. I'd like to
Alright,
see a
hold-
plan.
Hold on, this is one of the things we need to kind of stay organized and not turn into a free-for-all. Because we are on camera and people see this,
okay.
and perceptions, and, you know, matter.
Right.
And we just, we can have a general discussion like this, laid back, but we can't turn into a free-for-all. It has to be a little organized or structured. Again, we just sit here like we're just yelling out blah, 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 blah. It's,
You gotta be
see that
specific.
and think, yeah,
Yeah, we've got to be specific, got to know what we're talking about, but got to be able to explain it. Whether it's somebody that comes into the, you know, to the store when I'm working and asks me a question about it, I'd be able to give them an informed answer. Or if it's something that we present through the cable network, you know, we got to be able to articulate, you know, what is happening. And it's not to say that we have to agree with what, you know, the Board of Selectmen or, I mean, the town voted for a school, okay? So let's understand that, you know, we're not just trying to shoot it down, we're trying to understand it, we're trying to present the best information to help, you know, educate the folks out there so they understand what's going on. I want to know what the real cost of the school is going to be, you know? And I don't feel that we're close to having that. I'm not close to having that understanding at this point.
Can I say something? I know what it is.
If Paul is
You all
done.
done?
Just the suggestion that let's pick that topic. Let's go after, you know, an understanding of what the temporary loans mean and how they're gonna fit into the bigger picture once we do get our bond rating and we do go for our long-term loans. You know, what is the mechanism, you know, what are the steps that we're gonna progress
And
through?
if that is the plan.
If that
That's
is,
the
yeah.
The memo from the town administrator seemed to indicate that they don't plan to do that even into fiscal 19, they don't plan on going for a bond rating.
Well,
It's,
okay.
I mean, that's his memo from him to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah. And on the goals and objectives of the Board of Selectmen, I didn't see getting a bond rating.
As one.
As an
It was
objective
back
or-
in October when they did that,
Right.
but, you know, and that memo came out in November, but, again, it doesn't seem that is the plan right now. But
That's
again,
the
that
word,
is, what, to your
plan.
point,
There is no
get
plan.
clarification and that would be part of the bond anticipation note and the borrowing, how, and the way they're going about it,
Mhm.
and that financial, that block of town finance, of the police station, and you have to remember the sewer pump station, because the town through taxation takes care of 75%
Right.
of that debt payment. What,
Mhm.
it's an enterprise fund and everything, and it kind of doesn't make sense the way enterprise funds are supposed to run, but that's the way it was voted. And I don't think there's been any town meeting vote to change that. I think it was discussed once.
No, I think that's new debt, and I think that is all on the sewer users. That's why they increased the rate. The sewer commissioners increased the
Is,
rate
they
because-
decided they wanted to go the way the enterprise fund should really,
Right, it's
go
the
about it.
prior
Yes,
year
yes, yeah.
debts, there's prior
But
debt
has
for the
there
sewer
been a-
department.
I'll
That's
have to go back
75-25.
and check see if there's been a vote, town meeting vote to change that
Probably not.
75-25
I think
support.
that was done each borrowing for each project. So it was project-specific for that
I
debt.
will
I think that's how that
put
worked.
that on my to-do list to look, because I don't think it was, but
But Jeffrey, what you really said is what I was trying to say. There is no plan. I wanna see a plan. I wanna see, we're here and we're going there, and this is how we're going there. I wanna see a plan. That's what's bothering me.
well,
I don't know that there's not a plan, you know?
Well, if there is one, they
No.
gotta
I-
drag it
So,
out.
there is kind of it does look like their thought process and their approach in that memo
mhm.
to, you know, borrow this much this year and next year borrow so much. But it also states that the school's gonna be done in the summer of fiscal year 2019, and then it's the fall of 2019. I think some point it's calendar and then it's fiscal, but so there may be at least an outline of an approach. There may not be, but it looks as if there is. But as far as a real concrete plan, I think it's kind of make it up as you go along, or as circumstances dictate, because, again, it's a most expensive project the town's ever been done,
Mhm.
and it was went after with, I mean, a buzzsaw approach in the midst of financial turmoil, which in the business world probably wouldn't happen, but,
Mhm.
Mistake.
but I just thought that was something, to throw out to the
Bob would
committee,
do a good
and,
job.
we could, perhaps, like I said, it's not something we have to do right this minute, but, it's just something I thought we'd throw out and we could think about and nail down an approach to take. And even if it's, you know, we got A, B, C, and D, we'll put the bands, the finances stuff in block A and go after that and get answers to questions, explain it, and then next, and then next, or something. Anyway, I just thought it was important,
Mm.
for us to at least talk about and consider.
I think it's important for people to know. They have a right to know. This is their money.
So,
Maybe they'd feel more comfortable.
so if we're done with that, I will cross that agenda item off, and probably something for a future, meeting after the first of the year. So the next thing is old business. The one thing I have on the old business is we finally got a Gardner News bill
Yay.
for $63.80 for the advertising for the pre-town meeting.
Do we know how much money we have left in our account?
I didn't bring a budget to actual with me.
All right,
I believe we have enough to cover this,
okay.
because I don't think,
How long have you been sick? You've been sick for weeks.
let me,
Who?
I may have one.
I was buying last week and
I have
came
something,
back.
I know we
I
have
don't know
enough
how old this
to
is.
cover it. We'll
Right,
just-
so I'll make the motion that we pay the Gardner News bill for the pre-town hearing, for the special town meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded to pay, the advertising for the, special town meeting November 14th. In the amount of $63.80. Any further discussion? I'll give Paul a second to finish typing.
I just found my
How
document.
much was that again? How much
The
was the
amount
bill?
of-
Oh, $63.80.
63.80.
Oh, you have one with you. good.
Yeah, so our ending balance, according to the November 1st, 2017, budget to actual is $210.
Yeah, because we only had that one. It's not like
Right,
past years where we've had like 4 or 5.
right.
So we may have one more special and and the annual. I'm thinking maybe we might have another special, but we're gonna have at least the annual, so we should be all set this year, unless we have,
Mr. Chairman, am I not mistaken, but did we not pay the ATFC, wills out of that? Isn't that what that came out of, that 210?
I don't know, it doesn't give you a breakdown.
Yeah, cause I just remember that we had something like, that we could pay 3 people, and I think I remember that 210 number, so
Okay,
we might wanna check if that is the balance, if we're going with that.
let's see, I know Will turned in, and it was, or was it $50?
55.
50, 55?
It was 55 for the returning
right,
people.
returning members, yeah.
Yeah. And I think Will is the only, as far as I know, he's the only one who turned in a thing.
Right, yeah.
So,
So we
but like I said, I'm confident there's that much in there.
All right,
Because if there's 210, you subtract
155 anyway.
55.
all right.
Even 55 times 3 is less than
But
2.
did everyone submit, or just Will?
Just what?
Just Will,
Yeah,
so then I
yeah.
think we're good.
Because I got a bill for $55 from them. I wasn't even there. I wasn't even in the state, as a matter of fact. I was only in Range, New Hampshire.
Must have
but-
had a good time.
But I wasn't even in the state. All right, so we have a motion and a second to pay the advertising bill of $63.80. No further discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Bev?
Yep.
Julie?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And yes.
The other question I had was, we voted, I'll let you do your thing.
I got it.
Okay. We had voted to take, was it $1,700 for Vadar training? And that's not reflected on this budget to actual. So I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly which meeting we voted that at.
I do know, the minutes believe that's in the minutes. I forget if it was this meeting or that meeting where it was discussed, and it was last meeting, old business, that the TA needs a date from us to schedule the Vadar,
Right,
and this would be discussed at the next meeting.
right, but we voted that prior to
Do
that.
that. On the 16th, did you do it? 'Cause I don't think, I
I'm
wasn't,
trying to remember.
I don't think I was at the meeting.
Okay, I'll have to go through my minutes to figure it out. But-
Okay.
I'll wait until new business, I don't know if it's old business or new business,
Date,
to discuss a date to do that training.
okay. That would actually, that'd be under old business, open
Oh.
issues, because
Okay,
Sure,
it's been discussed
right.
at least 2 meetings.
okay,
One that I'm positive of, but 2
right.
um,
So I don't know if this is a training that, it must be held during the day. We're probably looking at January, right?
probably. Yeah, 'cause you figure, what, another week or 2, it's Christmas week
Right,
down, and
it's
then
like,
for 2
yeah.
weeks,
Right. You
so
write
half the
that
time is like,
Right. So I don't know if we want to, should we give the town administrator a couple of dates to try to arrange it? I
Yeah.
need to ask for time off from work and take a
Yeah.
personal day, so I prefer we don't do it on January 1st. Just for me. You had a long day.
Let's see, what do we have for,
All right, so Fridays are out.
Fridays are out because of the location here, you mean, or?
Well, yeah, because the office is closed.
Okay. I didn't know if, it was just, I know
Right.
that, I didn't know if
Right.
the conference room would be available to us and
Right.
where we were gonna do it, but.
Should we consult with Holly to see what dates would work?
Yeah.
I don't know how to go. Yeah,
Toss a couple dates out, and we have regular meetings scheduled for January 3rd and January 17th.
Regular,
Regular,
meetings?
regular Wednesday advisory committee
Yeah,
meetings.
okay.
So,
I'm pretty flexible myself, so whatever works best for rest of the
Yeah.
members
Yeah,
is
I mean,
fine with me. Friday's about the only day I can't, make
Right.
it anyway, so.
right, so if we take Friday off the board, I can call and, I can submit it a personal day as long as I have enough lead time to do that, so.
All right. Want to pick a couple of possible dates then, and I can check with the town administrator and, see if there's, we're going to schedule a full day. Is that the plan?
I assume
I
so.
believe
I thought
so.
it was a full day.
That's what I
training.
thought too.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause it
Whether you
was-
did an hour or 8 hours, it
Okay,
was
so
going to
we
be the
might as
same
well do
amount.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Get our money's worth. All right,
So in January, other than Fridays, is that like if we pick a day,
We can make it happen.
probably like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th week, like, other
Right.
than the 1st. I'm just thinking maybe the 1st,
Yeah.
that first full week might be, you never know.
well, you never know what you're gonna run into
Right.
after, so.
Like the week of the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd,
Yeah.
somewhere around
Yeah, I know
those
Martin
dates.
Luther
Out,
King
taking
Day
Fridays,
somewhere.
knock Fridays off.
All right, so like the 9th, the 10th, the 16th, the 17th, the 23rd, the 24th. And you're
And
leaving for Hawaii
I'm
when?
kinda just,
Yeah,
I just need to
I
know
think
the date. If it ain't snowing, I'll be there.
No snow this winter.
Bear gotta eat, you know.
It'll snow, it'll snow. After I'm in Hawaii, it can snow.
Yeah.
I don't care if it snows 50 feet.
Whoa,
Thanks.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Ground.
Thanks
whoa,
enough.
whoa.
That's
Aloha.
wonderful.
I'd settle for like 12, 15, but you know, 50, hey. I will never be at another meeting all winter long, and I will never be home, but,
Yeah.
you know.
I'll have to meet you on the side of the road
Take a beer with you?
to go lunch.
Bear be at home with the sheriff. All right, so, we have like days during, like, the week of the 8th, and the
Yeah.
15th, and the 22nd.
Yeah.
You wanna pick a couple days and then follow up with the TA on that, Paul?
Sure. So,
Okay.
so I'll pick, so either, what did I hear, 9th and 10th, or the 16th and the 17th? Is that what I heard in
Yeah.
January?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me give them, plan on 8 hours, possible, available dates, let's say, are. Okay, all right, yep, and I'll follow up with them on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ooh, that'll be 2018.
I know.
9, 10, 16,
9th, 10th,
17.
16th, 17th, okay.
All right. Okay. I'll let him get that done. Does anybody else have anything on the old business or open issues? Anything we skipped over, missed, I might have forgot, probably
just-
forgot.
I just have one thing, about the audit for this for last fiscal year.
Yeah, for
Has
17.
that been released, or?
I don't know if it's been done. I haven't seen
Nothing.
anything on it.
Okay.
I'll add that on to my, to-do list. Damn. Let's see, I gotta play ball, so.
Okay.
These
Time
go out
to
about,
phone in.
these go out about 10 tonight.
You have what?
Gotta go play ball. Got a ball player. There's a ball player. Serious about his ball.
Great time to do it in the dark.
He's a ball player.
Poor Sidoni, she
Play
can't.
ball.
Well,
Bear said
it's
he's got
dark.
night vision. He says, no, don't know about his daddy, but he got night vision.
Does he? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we all set under old business?
That's it, I guess.
I have one thing under new business,
What?
just informational. It was a letter in the mailbox last week. It wasn't sealed. I don't know if it came in that way or not. It's from Monty Tech. It's dated November 16th, 2017. It's addressed to the treasurer, the CC'd to James Gilbert, the Monty Tech rep, chairman of Board of Selectmen, Will Spring as chair of the Finance Committee, and the town administrator. It's the 17-18 budget assessment that was approved at our town meeting back in May has dropped. It's changed.
It'll be etched in concrete.
Town meeting voted $638,130. It has been revised down to $635,179. It's a difference of $2,952. It's not a grand amount, but it is a drop. And anytime your costs go down is a good thing.
long will that last?
So,
As the
I,
school populations drop,
Yeah.
won't happen.
so, that's what I have under, new business. If does anybody else have anything else? That is the, other than adjourn, that is the last item on the agenda.
Okay.
Anyone has nothing else? Anyone have anything to say, any information to pass on?
Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho,
Remember when you're thinking about the budget numbers, the chairman's stipend?
ho. Give you a stipend, all right.
All the popcorn you can eat for the year.
And
Double dipping.
you know, I believe my feelings on those are pretty well known. I'm 100% opposed to that.
I don't think you're gonna get rich doing this?
Well,
Oh, my.
get on the town payroll, along whatever, you know, get on the. You get on that train. If we are done, no one has anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
He beat you.
Okay.
Made,
Second.
seconded,
Yeah,
all,
Bev, seconded?
pick
Okay.
two,
Yes.
whoever.
Yeah.
yes,
All right,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Bev,
yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Robert?
Yeah.
What's his name?
No.